This is Evelyn Lopez. Welcome to Sustainability in Your Ear, the Earth911.com podcast for the week of December 23rd, 2019, end of the year. We have a lot to talk about today. We're going to talk about Ridwell, an interesting company that does a home pickup service, taking hard to recycle materials for you. We're going to talk about some natural living and recycling tips, and also cannabis farming. Of course, we'll answer your Earthling questions, and a few other things too. But first of all, let's talk about who's here. Mitch, are you on the line?
I am. Welcome to the holidays, folks. It's good to be here, and we're looking forward to an exciting 2020.
So are you in Lakewood today, or are you still down in California?
I am in Lakewood. I've been traveling due to an illness in my family, but I am back right now.
And I think today we do not have our Earth911 writer friend, Sarah Lozanova.
Yeah, unfortunately, but the holidays are just that time of the year. Sometimes schedules don't work.
It can be a little tricky coordinating around things. Speaking of tricky, interesting things, Mitch, I heard something tricky in a good way. I heard something about Google and Earth911. What's that about?
Well, yeah, we have launched on the Google Assistant. So you can now ask the Google Assistant, hey, Google, how do I recycle aluminum foil or whatever material you would like? And you will get back both an answer, a summary of what you do. Google will explain it to you, and they use our content to do that. So they'll refer to our articles. And you can ask where you can recycle it, and you'll get the same kind of results that you do on our search engine or in our iRecycle app. So we have opened yet another way for folks to find out how to recycle and where to recycle materials, and we're really proud to be partnered with Google to do that. It took them months to validate our content, but they were very confident about the quality of our data, and that's a real honor. They look at a lot of stuff, and to pass that muster is a great endorsement of Earth911's recycling information.
I think it's amazing. So I can, on my phone, I've got an Android phone, and I can say, okay, Google, can you tell me whether I can recycle, let's say, a milk carton? And they'll provide information.
How do the two basic commands are?
Yeah, what's the language?
How do I recycle X, and where do I recycle X? Now, obviously Google's Assistant is cued to understand other variations on that, but those are the two main things.
That's incredibly wonderful. Don't you feel like we're getting just a little bit closer to Star Trek, where you can just hit your communicator and say, computer, find me this book?
Computer.
Computer.
Well, yeah, I do. And one of the problems that we have as a society is that progress has produced both great opportunity and a lot of waste. And where we really are is trying to take the waste back out of the system that we have created. So if we can think about how to reduce what we throw away and make sure that it gets recycled rather than just sent to a landfill, that can make a big difference. It's also, important that we make changes in how we purchase, how we drive, how we work, all sorts of things. But that has been the human experience from the very beginning. And hopefully now we are in a place where the convenience and ease of access to information about recycling will start to cross over with the infrastructure's availability, and we'll be really ramping up our recycling capabilities, as well as just making the economy a lot more efficient. And we're pleased to be part of that. And that's really Earth911's 2020 mission, is to expand not only the recycling information that we have about materials, but at the product level too. So we're working now and have started to rebuild our database so that we can provide information about a specific product, its packaging, and the material that it's made of, so that you can get rid of the stuff that it comes in efficiently and quickly. You can also know what to do with it when it reaches its end of life, whether that's a reuse program that is facilitated by the brand that sold it, or whether it's a recycling program, or whether it's a composting program. And information is how we organize our economy and how we organize all of our activities, and we're going to be building something that helps people do that and making it available as widely as possible. So Google is one of our first big expansions. If you haven't already downloaded our iRecycle app, that's a great way to get started with this as well.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, and that is a very good segue into the first story that we have that we were going to talk about today. And that is a story that's up on the Earth911 website. It says, Ridwell recycles the tricky stuff. It's by Gemma Alexander, came out at the end of November. And it's a very good story about what I hope we'll see in a lot of places, kind of a concierge recycling service where the business will come to you and help get rid of things that are a little bit more challenging to recycle.
Yeah, this is a company, Ridwell. It's based in Seattle, and it was founded by Ryan Metzger, who essentially was a dad whose kids had realized that their dead batteries couldn't be sent through the recycling system, and instead of having to schedule a pickup, and which involves paying a fee to the city to come and get the materials, or to drive to the household waste facility, he decided to start a service that drops by and picks up recyclables once a week. And so the Ridwell program, you subscribe, you pay between $10 and $14 a month based on how much material or how long the agreement is. And they'll pick up 4 different kinds of materials. So you get 4 different bags, one for plastic film, one for batteries, one for light bulbs, and one for textiles, so old clothing. And they go in a box that looks a lot like an old-fashioned milk box with a Ridwell logo.
Yeah, it does.
You drop that in, and so each week they'll come and get one of these materials. They pick up a 5th material during the pickup on a rotating basis. So there may be other things like cookware that is also going to be donated to a nearby charity, or eyeglasses, or pet supplies, or things like Halloween candy. So it's a really interesting way of thinking about recapturing certain materials which have a high value. Batteries are infinitely or very eminently recyclable, not infinitely so. Plastic film, which is hard to get rid of in most contexts, is a valuable material as well. But it shows how when we start to think about specific parts of the waste stream rather than the whole waste stream all at once, you can pick apart opportunities to be more efficient. And, this is interesting to me, too, because we've done Earth911 has done a trial in Issaquah, Washington, near Seattle, where we're picking up, we provide 5 bins, 4 bins for the traditional materials and a 5th that we call the wish bin, where you put what you think should be recyclable into the bin, and we communicate back to the brand that made it that people would like to recycle it, and we also make sure it gets to a responsible recycler. So what happens to all this material is we pick it up, we weigh it, we provide feedback to the recycler about what they can do to make it more recyclable. And this eliminates a lot of the contamination that has plagued American recycling so that the material can actually be successfully turned into something new. So we're playing with the same kinds of challenges. Ridwell has about 1,000 customers in the Seattle area after only 2 or 3 months of actual pickups. They have done very little marketing, and they're looking at how to expand. So we're intrigued and inspired by what they're doing, and hope to be able to augment the single stream waste system that we have today with services like Ridwell has done. But we want to do the entire spectrum of materials. So both Ridwell and Earth911 are experimenting about this in the Seattle area, and I think that's a great opportunity for change.
I think it really is, especially since curbside recycling is becoming a little bit more restrictive. In our Tacoma curbside recycling, you used to be able to put in plastic bags if they were bagged in one bag. And recently that's changed. So I'm still bagging them all in one bag just so that they don't get loose when they get into the trash pickup. But that's a real lost opportunity. Yeah,
well, the interesting thing about bags of bags is that anything in a bag is considered contamination by the traditional single waste stream, so it gets pulled right out. We went through the same thing in Lakewood just recently, outside of Tacoma, where they stopped taking glass, and this is the way that we learned about it. The waste hauler scrawled on the top of our recycling bin, "No glass," with a Sharpie.
Okay.
And, that just doesn't feel like a well-organized system to me somehow.
No, that's not the best communication plan.
And we need to rethink all this. We need to think about our responsibility. If you're going to pack it in, you should pack it out. If you're going to create something and sell it, you need to figure out how to get it back and reuse it rather than just have it go into the landfill. And those are changes that a lot of companies are already well through the process of working out. But the infrastructure and the collaborative platform through which people will be able to organize and use all these different material flows is still taking shape.
Yeah, absolutely. We had another story up on our site that we thought was interesting. It was about eco-friendly, sustainable living when you're away at university.
Yep.
It has a nice 5 ways to be eco-friendly and sustainable at university. And I would say this would be true for any place where you're sort of living away for an extended period of time. So even for those of us who are well past our university days, but if you're on an extended travel trip or you're staying at a hotel for a couple of weeks, these are some things that you can think about too.
Yeah, that's a great point. A lot of people learn how to be adults at university, and and if your university is really organized to be efficient and to facilitate recycling, that's a great experience. It's something that you'll take away with you and start to spread into the communities that you move to after you get an education. Now, there are actually rankings of this type of question. So you can find out at reports.aashe.org about the STARS program, which is a college and university sustainability reporting tool. And there's 664 there are 986 colleges listed in their rankings, but only 5 who have received platinum, which is the very top level ranking, is Colorado State University, Stanford University, the Thompson Rivers University in British Columbia, the University of California, Irvine, and the University of New Hampshire. There are a number, hundreds of gold-ranked universities. But if you want to find a place to live and be sustainable, those top 5 colleges are excellent examples. So, for instance, Colorado State University recaptures 93% of the materials that are generated on campus, and that's an astonishing thing. You can learn that in school and take it back to a community, and then start to put it to work. That's a way you can have a huge impact as a young person today.
Yeah, I actually went to UC Irvine, got my bachelor's degree there, and my dad was a professor at that school, and one of my brothers got a PhD there too. So I don't think they were as sustainable in the mid-'80s as they are now, but that has always been a school that has prided itself on looking forward and trying to find solutions to problems.
Well, I really like your point about that what you learn to do in this article at college is also applicable if you're traveling. So, thinking about reducing your printing so that you just read on screen, or not buying bottled water. I was sitting in an airport yesterday. The only water available was bottled water. So, of course, I went thirsty.
It's a shame. I think some of these things too, I think are a little bit challenging for all of us. I'll say us, myself, an older person. I am very comfortable reading books on screen on my Kindle, but I do like to print papers out where I'm going to be marking them up. And that's just kind of a leftover of the way that I learned to do everything. And I think I need to try to learn a way to mark things up on the tablet.
I think what I've, because I've been working as a writer for a long time, and obviously Earth911, we do everything on screen. There's almost no printing done at all. Actually, I can't think of any situations where we printed anything. And that's a great opportunity to apply, or a great thing to apply in a collaborative environment where you're working remotely, because we share a lot of electronic documents.
Yeah.
But learning to do that just across your normal life is not easy.
Yeah, it can be hard. The stop buying bottled water, I agree with you. That is another thing. One of the airports I go to with some regularity is the Orange County Airport, and they now have a water bottle filling drinking fountain right next to the restroom. So, and I've taken to putting an empty water bottle in my travel bag so that when I stop there, I can fill it up, or when I'm about to go on the plane, I can fill up. And that's a huge help.
Well, with 20 million students in the United States at university, this is an opportunity to change things, and these young folks are learning a better way of living, which I'm looking forward to seeing spread to everywhere.
Me too. So some of the other tips that they have is, of course, refuse, reduce, reuse, and recycle. Be smart with your water usage. They note that, as we've been told, just turn off the tap while you brush your teeth and you'll save up to 200 gallons of water every month. Help promote groundbreaking initiatives. So get involved would be another thing, and become an environmental change maker.
Yeah, shorter showers, things like that too. Just being conscious of what we're taking when we're doing it is the important thing.
No, I think that's all really excellent. Well, we also had, we had two other articles we wanted to touch on today. One is a nice article about natural healing, 5 tips to heal naturally. I'm sorry that Sarah can't be with us today because this is one of her good articles.
Yeah, the most important one that I took away from this article was getting adequate sleep. And one of the good things about sleep is when you're sleeping, you're not consuming stuff. So, why not take a nap?
Sure, good point.
And what's interesting is that since, 100 years ago, in 1910, most people in the United States slept 9 hours per night. Now, 40% of adults in the United States report sleeping only 6 hours a night. And that's actually bad for you in many cases. And over the course of a lifetime of sleeping less than one would need to, you can incur a lot of mental deficits from that lack of sleep. And so I've been very focused on that. I'm dealing with a family illness and traveling a lot to take care of someone. It's important to take care of yourself too. And sleep has been the way that I've been able to do that. Now, staying hydrated obviously is another important one. Most people are chronically dehydrated. And a lot of that water, the water is essentially the medium through which our entire body exists. The water in our cells, around our cells, and we need to stay hydrated in order for all of the molecular engines running inside our body to function correctly. So that's a big one. What were you particularly interested in this one?
Well, I think I'm similar. I try to get adequate sleep, but it takes me a really long time to fall asleep. So if I don't, get myself into bed before 10 o'clock, it means I'm probably not actually falling asleep until about 11 or so. So I really need to work on that, and drinking more water too. But I think in some ways, the thing that I found the most interesting was the point to nourish a positive mental state. And I think that, especially in our current time of divisiveness and a lot of upheaval politically in our nation, it's really easy to sink into a deep funk of feeling like things are pretty terrible and they're only going to get worse. And I would say the same thing with looking at climate change statistics and everything. It is really easy to drop into a deep negative funk.
The sense of giving up. On the other hand, you can use that extra hour when you're trying to fall asleep to focus on the positive mental state.
Well, I do think, one of the things that has always really helped me, I think I tend to have a fairly optimistic point of view, but one of the things that has always helped me is, the little phrase that, you can't control a lot of things that happen. You can really control very few things that happen to you, but you can always control how you react to them. Mm-hmm. And I think that, not feeling like you're the victim of everything, but sort of seeing things as, okay, this is a bad thing, but here's what I can do about it, really helps to kind of keep you on the even keel.
I think the other thing that you mentioned, the social interaction is critically important. This is, we need to be talking to one another rather than falling into these insulated bubbles of similar thought where you don't have challenging conversations. It's the ability to overcome our differences that makes us genuinely social creatures, and that's why we've been able to survive and thrive as much as we have. But so many people today say it's not worth talking to other people or the other side, and that's unfortunate. It denigrates what it means to be human.
Well, and I do think it's a shame because, though there are some offensive personalities and people who, you may decide you just need to limit your exposure to. But for the most part, we really do have very similar goals and concerns. People are pretty universally concerned about their health, their well-being, how they're going to age, their aging parents, how their children are growing up, what opportunities will be available for them. How do they maintain a safe and secure home? How do they, take care of the environment so that the things they enjoy can be enjoyed in the future? I don't think most of those things depend on your political outlook. It's somewhere you can find the commonalities, shift away from the divisions. That can be helpful too.
Well, if we can keep that in mind, that would be a great thing. However, many people don't.
I was going to say, well, and if we can't, our next article is about cannabis farming.
Well, there you go. And then, by the way, Sarah also covered acupuncture, Ayurvedic medicine, and other things that you can do to just manage your health on a regular basis. And human touch, just massage, is one of the best ways I've found over the course of the years to relieve the stress and also reconnect to people so that I can have a conversation and just feel good and relaxed. So there's a lot you can do to take care of yourself. But if you can't take care of yourself, then a lot of people turn to pot.
That's right. That's right. Get a little assistance from cannabis. Well, and in this particular article, we're looking at whether it was good for your mental health. We were looking at, this is an article by Anna Johansson, Is Cannabis Farming Sustainable, from late November. And this is really looking at this industry that's been an incredible growth industry. And I know in Washington State, it's been a very big industry. And even in Tacoma, we have a lot of grow going on in what used to be a food production part of town. The Nally Valley had a lot of pickling plants, and they, making canned foods, and a lot of that's all gone. But those big warehouses that were used for food production, some of them are now used for really high-end pot production.
Well, yeah, you used to smell pickles being made when you drove through Nally Valley, and now you don't smell pickles, you smell
But you do
cannabis.
Smell pot, actually. Yeah, you do smell pot quite a lot in the Nally Valley.
Harvest days in Nally Valley are overwhelming. Well, so there are three types of cannabis cultivation, indoor, and that can include potted or hydroponic cultivation. There are greenhouses, which are combination of mixed and natural lighting, but using primarily some form of soil. And then there are outdoor farms, which in many states with legal cannabis are actually the dominant form of grow. And in Eastern Washington here, a lot of people are growing outdoors. But, these are three different methods with different water impacts, with different ecological impacts. And the cannabis industry has a lot of promise in terms of our ability to make it efficient, because it is the first industry tracked from seed to shelf. That is, they literally do DNA tracking of the material you have to track, what you throw away, what you give away as samples, what you use in your processing or consume in the processing process. That's a redundant word. And so, we know theoretically what happens to every gram of this stuff, but there are problems with, or rather I should say, there are choices to be made with different kinds of impact. So you can use artificial light, and if you do that, you have to find something that is a renewable source of power in order not to be contributing to the greenhouse gas load from generation of the electricity you're using. So thinking about how to use the right power is one of the first questions we should be asking our cannabis cultivators. And yet that's not something that you can find on the packaging. You can find all sorts of information on the cannabis packaging about where it came from and who grew it and who sold it and all of this kind of stuff. But there's no sustainability information there. It would be really interesting for that to be made available.
Yeah, that is interesting. And I know the places that I'm thinking of in the Nally Valley area too, they're sort of older warehouse space, but I don't see any solar panels on their roofs. And that would be, they're not in areas with a lot of trees. So that would actually be a good opportunity for them if they wanted to change to better.
Exactly. And even though Washington has the highest renewable energy generation share in the United States, that doesn't mean that they can't do better.
Yeah.
So then, you want, in terms of shipping and the packaging, there's not a lot of information about the impact of the packaging either. And a lot of cannabis packaging is made of plastic or some sort of composite paper and plastic material. And so there's a lot of waste from the packaging, which we can address as well. On the other hand, there are many grows and brands that sell things in glass, but there's no program for getting the glass back and reusing it. So we have to think about how we can augment the current system to maybe you bring, just like a bottle deposit, you bring back your glass jars so that they can be reused would be a way to solve that.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Also we have to think about pesticides and chemicals. A lot of farms attempt to be organic, and because 82% of farms are family owned, it's a lot more reasonable to take an organic approach than in a corporate grow kind of environment. But the efficiency of a family farm is also a challenge. It's not necessarily high tech, and bringing more technology to these small farms, just as in our food supply system, we could better plan what we need and then say, we're going to need this many pounds of potatoes on this day. If we could do the same with cannabis on a regional basis, you could do a lot to reduce the waste and the overhead, environmental and financial, of storing things and then moving them around to try to get them to where they're wanted rather than where you think they can sell and just sit on the shelf. Not that I've seen a lot of stuff sit on a shelf in a cannabis dispensary, but it's, there are a lot of changes that could be put in place. And right now the industry is designed for a lot of transparency, but transparency about the provenance of the material rather than the sustainability of the material. Yeah.
It would be nice too, I'm thinking, to see a little bit more sort of commitment to some other types of emerging industries. So for example, it would be really nice to see the Washington cannabis packaging make a commitment to using like Washington hemp for its packaging or something like that. I mean, I just think they're in a unique position where they've got a product that has been very successful. And I think they can use that now they could leverage it into, helping other products that are environmentally friendly.
Yeah, that's a good point, because when you get done processing the stem and other parts of the plant, you've got plant fiber that can be turned into packaging. And there are, that's an interesting way of thinking about it. So what else could you do with the plant to package the material that the plant delivers? And that's a great question, Evelyn. I mean, I think it would be phenomenally interesting to see a package made of hemp full of cannabis.
Yeah, it would be kind of fun, wouldn't it? Yeah. Oh, some good ideas. We'll see. I don't know anyone in that industry. We'll have to find some point of contact. Oh, well, good.
And one of the companies that I've been involved with, Headset, actually tracks the entire industry from grow to shelf in the sales and so forth. But that's a place where that database could be augmented with sustainability information about the packaging quite easily. Obviously, it takes a little investment, but once you have that information, people can make a lot more informed decisions. And that's really what this article is about, is understanding the environmental consequences of this new product on the market, which of course is selling billions of dollars worth of revenue every year.
And it's such an opportunity. When was the last time we had a new industry? I mean, it's not that growing pot is new, but growing it in recognized commercial facilities and regulating it and tracking it so carefully, that's new. So there's a lot to be learned from this.
Absolutely. And again, human progress is about increasing efficiency. And, we've had a breakthrough. Now you can buy this stuff in the United States. You can buy this stuff in Canada. It's something that we can redesign to be an environmentally sustainable product at every step in the process, rather than just the fact that it's a plant. And everybody says, oh, it's a plant, it's sustainable. Well, it's not entirely so, but it could be.
Right. Very interesting. So before we move on to Earthling questions, do you want to tell me about some of the interviews you've been doing while we've been sort of
we've got some great interviews. One that's coming out next week is with Steve Nygren, who's a restaurateur. He had 68 restaurants around the United States. He's created a community called Serenbe, which is outside of Atlanta in the Chattahoochee Hills. It is 70% green space, and the houses are sustainably built. They're made to be 30 to 50% more energy efficient. And there are 4 sort of hubs in this community, each with its own cultural focus: arts, crafts, small businesses that are brought in order to create a full community of people who've decided to live together in a sustainable way. And the homes range from small houses or condos to large homes that nevertheless are integrated into the environment in such a way that it is like living in an old-fashioned community, but one that is sustainable. And I really found that a great conversation. We also talked recently with Lauren Olson, who's the zero waste manager at World Centric in Roanoke Park, California, about the problem of wish cycling, that is putting stuff in the bins that doesn't actually go there, and talked about how that can clog up the system, create contamination, as well as present safety issues in the processing facilities, because stuff can get jammed when, for instance, you put plastic film through the system. And that was a really interesting conversation. Another one that related to the same topic had to do with the progress in carton recycling. So, fiber cartons, milk, juice, like that. And we talked with Jason Pells, who is the Vice President of Sustainability Projects at the Carton Council, which was launched in 2009 to improve the carton recycling rate. And at that time, recycling was at 6% in the carton industry. Now it's about 18%. So they've made 300% progress over the course of the last 10 years and are starting to reach more homes. So they've passed more than 60% of the homes in the United States with services that will pick up a carton now. And that means that they can say it's recyclable, but that also means that there is going to be more material tossed in the bin because people say, oh, look, it's recyclable. This creates an opportunity to reuse that fiber in those packages. There are only a few facilities that actually do that in the United States right now, but many more are being built, and that's partly a response to the Chinese ban that was put in place a couple of years ago. The interesting thing is China just this last week started to indicate that, or signal that it is going to ban fiber imports, all fiber imports except for newspaper, which means we have to deal with more of this here at home, including all of these cartons. So it was a great conversation with Jason about the progress in carton recycling. And finally, we spoke with Tom Brown Jr., who is famous as a tracker. He has tracked missing people and criminals and teaches a tracking course in several different places around the world. And he recently published a book, Tom Brown Jr.'s Guide to Healing the Earth, which he bases on the training and experience he had living with an Apache elder when he was young. And so he recounts the story of meeting Stalking Wolf and what he learned from them, learned from the experience, as well as what he's been teaching folks for the last 45 years. So it's a great conversation and a lot of fun to think about and how one can be better at stewarding the planet.
Yeah, sounds like a good book, too. Well, okay, so that's a lot of good listening available. Now let's talk about Earthling questions.
Okay, let's do it.
Okay, so Susan on Facebook says she has an emergency. She says she has an Earth911, I think meaning an emergency, in the 35007. I don't know where that is. But
it's not Beverly Hills.
It's not. Anyway, in the 35007, they cut their recycling services. She says apparently our city was getting the service for free, while surrounding cities definitely paid for it. And now our city doesn't want to pay for it or charge residents for it, even though most of us certainly would be willing to pay for it. Talk about a major step back.
Well, yeah, that is the problem.
It is. Yeah, that is a problem, Susan. Well, I think, Susan, number one, you should be running for city council, or you should be looking for people to run for city council, because the decisions made by your local government have a significant impact on your life. And this is one of them.
And we've covered
to run.
Yeah, we have a number of stories about people who have gotten involved, whether it's to create community recycling programs or what they did to influence policy in their region. So one of the things that Susan is referring to is this notion of a city where it's paid for and where it's not. And those cities where it's paid for are often what are called closed systems. So they have a contract with somebody, whether it's their own internal people or an external waste management company, come pick stuff up. And those can be very efficient and very effective, but then right next door in another community, there may be no service whatsoever. And it sounds like what's happened is that they recognize somebody wasn't paying for the service. So the challenge, of course, is this doesn't happen for free. And I would echo what you said. Run for city council. Write to the newspaper. If you don't have a local newspaper anymore, start a blog about recycling in your city. We'll point to it. Send us information about it, and we'll point to it. The only way we can get people to step up and shoulder their share of the burden of creating all this waste is to figure out how to get them to either easily get rid of it so that it is low cost to do so, or to shoulder the cost of doing it. And both of those are viable solutions. So you can lower the cost of recycling by making sure more people are doing a better job. That will bring companies in that recognize that there is valuable material there that they could be making money off on the materials sales, capturing it and then providing it to somebody who would then take it and reuse it to make a new product. So there's a lot of variables, but the real challenge is getting people to talk about what they feel their responsibility is and what they're going to be willing to spend to solve the problem that they've recognized. So it is an emergency, Susan. Let's fix it.
It is. And I would say probably what we're talking about is the curbside recycling. Probably there still is a recycling center or station where you could take things to. So another option in the meantime, while you're working on your political and activism, you could, I'm thinking of the story on Ridwell, you could contact people on social media, either the Nextdoor app or the Buy Nothing or something like that, or on Facebook and say, does anyone want to form up a group to take turns taking all of our glass to the recycling center?
Yeah, and now the other thing you're assuming that there is a recycling center nearby, and in many communities,
there may not be
limited only to the ones that are paying. So if you're in City A and City B doesn't have that program, City A has a drop location that is only available for City A residents. So then you could go into City A as City B and say, can we share? But there again, you come back to who's going to pay for it.
That's true.
So, and Ridwell did start in a Buy Nothing group. Yeah.
So, but I guess it's one of those things too, where if this is something you care about, you need to be an activist. It's not going to necessarily happen if someone doesn't make it happen.
Well, that's the difference between waiting for things to happen and making them happen.
Yeah. So Jessica on Facebook has a nice question. She says, have you ever worked with TerraCycle? I'm exploring using them as a solution to the recyclable but mixed materials problem.
Well, we haven't partnered with TerraCycle, but we recommend a number of their programs. And, we were talking earlier about that there's an economic imperative. This has to pay for itself in some way. And what TerraCycle has done very effectively is focus on valuable waste streams. So they, have focused on collecting batteries from all over the country. This is a mail-in program. They'll send you a box. They then break down that material and make sure that it is responsibly recycled. They do similar programs. They're part of the Loop business that is delivering a box that you then refill with the used materials and is picked up again in the future. But this shows that, picking your waste stream is one of the ways that we can be efficient and profitable even in the very limited sense, creating a circular economy. And TerraCycle is more aggressive about experimenting with that than anybody. So, Jessica, if you're considering working with them, you do need to recognize that you have to generate enough volume to justify the creation of the project with TerraCycle. So if you're talking about the ability to generate tons of materials over the course of a year, that's going to be of interest to them. If you're talking about pounds, that's probably not going to get their attention because they have very limited resources. It's only about an $11 to $15 million a year company based on the reports that I've read. So they have to put their time and energy into something that is going to allow them to succeed.
Mm-hmm. And I guess if Jessica's asking, is this a good group? I would say everything I've seen seems like they're people you should definitely explore working with.
Absolutely. Yeah. Just be aware that their first question may be, how much are we talking about?
Yep, absolutely. So our last question is one that is actually this type of question when we get it, I always just sort of think, oh dear, what's going on here? But Dirk says, I hope you can help me. I'm looking for what type of filtration is needed to recycle used automotive antifreeze.
Yeah, well, that is an interesting question because antifreeze can be recycled with filtering. However, it is a toxic material in most cases. So antifreeze is a water-based additive, and usually the other materials are some form of sugar. Some form of sugar alcohol in other cases. And it can be sweet, so your kids would potentially taste it and think, wow, this tastes good, and swallow it. And you have to be very careful about that. So I would not recommend doing antifreeze filtering at home. There are a couple of things to keep in mind about the complexity. First off, what is the additive? If it's polypropylene glycol, it's actually a non-toxic, or at least marketed as a non-toxic material, it'll kill you if you drink enough of it. That's one of the, you can't mix that with a different type of antifreeze made with, for instance, ethylene glycol. And so you can't just mix this stuff up. If there are different colors, you cannot mix those colors together because the colors represent the clean materials state. And if you do so, you're actually not able to say this is good material anymore. You just have ruined the whole batch by mixing them together. So you have to keep them separate. You have to make sure that they are safely stored when they are not being used. Now you can, once you filter it, or if you have an old bottle of antifreeze sitting on a shelf, keep it forever. Not something that wears out. You can continue to use that stuff if you have bottles that you bought 10 years ago. It will still work just fine. It's just you can't mix it together with other kinds, even in your own car. And a lot of people make this mistake anyway. So you're probably not going to get good, clean antifreeze in most cases, unless it's your own car and you want to recycle it and use it yourself. If you're going to do that, that's going to require an industrial quality filter. And we're talking about a nano filter, essentially, something that can take out very fine particles of dirt and metal and oil or other things that might have contaminated the antifreeze while it was in use. So we don't recommend doing that. We do recommend recycling. In some cases, you can actually recycle antifreeze in your curbside program, but you need to check. Those are very rare. You cannot take, as you can take, motor oil to a auto shop. We have been tracking this for a long time, and we have no information that suggests that any retailer in the United States will take an antifreeze bottle for recycling. And you want to make sure that you, as I said, keep this stuff in the right containers, separate from the other materials that you use on your car. You can't mix it all together and then recycle it. So it's a very complex, and granted, may sound simple if you say, I'm just going to take the antifreeze out of my car and filter it and reuse it. But if you're going to take it from 3 cars around the house, or you use different kinds of antifreeze, there's just a lot of ways to screw this up. And that can hurt your car. And that will also make your car less sustainable.
Well, and so we do have on the website a recycling guide. to recycling antifreeze. So if you decide that filtration sounds like it may not actually be something you want to do at home, which is certainly the conclusion I would come to, then there is a guide on how to recycle used antifreeze.
Yeah, and I think that's this is another place where if you get together with people and maybe your local household hazardous waste facility to create a swap around antifreeze, maybe somebody will do the effective filtering for reuse, but it's not the kind of thing that is going to be convenient to do at home.
No. Yeah. Well, good advice. I wouldn't want to do it at home. No. All right. Well, Mitch, anything else from you before we wrap up today?
Well, happy holidays to everybody. And thank you all for a great 2019 at Earth911.
And even more exciting stuff to look forward to in 2020.
We are headed into a new era in recycling in this country, in sustainability. All the signs are that the businesses in the United States, despite the administration's policies, are stepping up to this, at least in large part, not all of them. And we want to help get that information out. And folks, if you are interested in how to participate, we would love to hear from you.
Excellent. All right, then. So happy holidays. Thanks for listening to Sustainability in Your Ear. We hope you tune in for all of our conversations and let your friends know about it too. We appreciate it. If you have thoughts you'd like to share by email, you can email us at feedback@earth911.com. And you can find us on all of your podcast platforms. We will see you next time.
Thanks, everybody.